Hey everyone, welcome to the Iceberg Lounge. I'm your host Thomas Single, along with my friend Randy Dobbins, and today we are going to be talking about DC and Marvel, and if they're going to actually merge or just gonna do a crossover. So it started with me actually seeing this video on YouTube, talking about this, because I'm not real big into either one of like the comics, which, you know, now that we don't have a comic book store anymore, that would be hard to get into now.
The link to that video will not be in this description because we don't have a description.
We do have a description, and it will be.
Oh, okay then.
Anyway, so basically, this whole theory starts off in Doomsday Clock number 12, which is the finale of the Doomsday Clock storyline with DC.
Obviously, yeah. And
there's somewhere in the comics where it literally says this: it is January 2026, the timeline is restored. So some timeline is restored. I'm guessing right now it is...
Looks like we'll have to wait 6 years to find out.
We'll see. It says, and Earth 5G is born. So up next... Okay, so after this series is over, DC's going to start what is called the 5th generation. And it's basically going to be their last shot, I guess, of trying to, I guess, get their comics successful again. Yeah. Because, but here's the weird thing. They're changing, like, every character. Like Bruce Wayne's not going to be Batman. Like, it's so weird. And so, the next thing is, it says it is June 17th, 2026. Superman goes on a quest to find Bruce Wayne's lost daughter. So, Bruce Wayne now has a lost daughter
that he never knew about.
And she can save Bruce's son.
Yeah.
So, now, okay, so Bruce's only son that I know about of Bruce Wayne is Damian Wayne, who is the daughter of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. And Talia al Ghul is the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, who's the leader of the League of Assassins.
Yeah.
But see, Damian was a Robin and got killed. So is this going to be Damian? Like, they're going to try to save Damian, and the only way I can see them saving Damian is putting him in the Lazarus pit, like his grandfather, but that'd make him crazy. Yeah. Or is it a new son? Which it is. Who did Batman get with?
I mean, Catwoman.
I mean, yeah, there's Catwoman.
That's the only one I could think of.
But, like, I know he had a daughter with Catwoman who ended up becoming the Huntress. But is it because it says a lost daughter, so it has to be another daughter, and like obviously Bruce Wayne gets around a lot. He does. But then on the other side, it skips forward 4 more years. So now the left side of this comic strip skips 6 years. From 2020 to 2026. And then on the left, it skips from 2026 to 2030. So on July 10th, 2030, the Secret Crisis begins, throwing Superman into a brawl across the universe with Thor himself. It literally mentions Thor in a DC comic.
Which I think that could be a nod to be like, oh, we're going to do a crossover with Marvel. And so they're like, oh, let's mention Thor. But a part of me is also like, well, Thor's not just a licensed character by Marvel. It's also like in Norse mythology, so you know what I mean?
True, but then the next line says, and he will also be battling with a green behemoth that's stronger than Doomsday, hinting that could have been the Hulk.
Yeah.
And apparently, from what this says, the Hulk dies protecting Superman and these invaders. So does Thor end up killing the Hulk? Because right now, in the comics, Thor is a herald of Galactus. And it says, in the wake, Superman's timeline shifts forward again. And it says ... And so, like, I just am trying to figure, hold on. And it says, like, above here, it's like, no matter how many times Superman's existence is attacked, he will survive. Even if change is a constant, because hope is the North Star of the Metaverse.
Okay, that's interesting.
I have no clue what a Metaverse is. Possibly it might be their version of what is called an omniverse, which would be all the universes in one universe, mega universe.
The Metaverse, it says right here, is a collective virtual shared space created by the convergence of virtually enhanced physical reality and physically persistent virtual space, including the sum of all virtual worlds, augmented reality, and the internet.
Huh.
And it says it's a fictional universe.
A fictional, okay.
So maybe that's them saying, since it's a virtual shared space created by the convergence of virtually enhanced physical reality and like the internet and stuff like that, maybe that's them saying, well, our comics are dying, but with this metaverse, we're connected to Marvel.
Because see, now we go to Thor number 2 in Thor's new series of comics. And obviously right now they're going through a storyline in the comics to where there is I'm trying to figure out what they're trying to call it. It's like it's not Black Snow. I think it's called The Darkest Day.
Yeah.
And basically it's this huge, like, it seems like storm that's going across the universe that is literally destroying planets and everything. And, like, on the planet, like, once the darkest day is over the planet, it, like, rains this black stuff that looks like black snow, and it slowly like dissolves or like breaks down the people's bodies like into like atoms or whatever. Trying to get to this comic strip for a second. So I finally got it up, and it says right here, it's like something else is speaking or narrating at this time. I don't know exactly who, but it says, when your past and your future cease to exist, when the entirety of who you are and who you will ever be becomes moot in the silence, indifferent cold that falls across your universe. And it's talking about this Darkest Day event
in the Thor comic.
Yeah. And it says, you will scream prayers to your gods. Oh no, it says, will you scream prayers to your gods? Will you clasp your hands in hope that your noble defenders will arrive? And it's like, it's questioning these people, and then eventually it goes, you will. And then if you skip forward
That could just be the one above all, or the one of the Watchers.
Well, see, there's something that's interesting about the one above all, and the deal with him in the comics, because it was recently shown in the DC comics that the one that was comparable to the one above all, I forgot her name, but anyway, it talked about higher beings than her that sent her to create universes. So the sense of them building something higher than the one above all, and that the one possibly that's the one above all was also sent out by these other higher beings to create these multiverses.
Yeah. Also, I feel like that's a missed opportunity they had in the Marvel movies, where now that Stan Lee's dead, they can't do it, which is Stan Lee being the one above all.
Yeah, I feel that was mishandled as well, because now the only one that I see that could take Stan's place would be Deadpool, just because he's able to break the fourth wall and everyone's okay with him doing whatever he wants.
I feel like it's too soon for him to kind of like be like, oh, I'm Stan Lee, you know.
Well, I wouldn't say he's gonna go and say he's Stan Lee.
Oh, I know, but you know, being like starting to be like a cameo of him, I feel like it's too soon.
Panel in this Thor comic, it shows a city getting obviously eat up by this darkest day. That's what it's called right now. And it says, when it says a sun god, a god of emerald light, a god of dark, perhaps, a god of the ocean, of speed, of strength. Sun god represents Superman.
Superman, yeah.
Emerald, Green Lantern.
Yeah. Well, I was also thinking, when it said that, I was either thinking Green Lantern or the Martian Manhunter, because he's actually green.
True, but it would probably, if they would have did that, it'd probably been like a god from Mars.
Yeah.
Or something, because that's where he's from. And a god of dark, that's Batman.
Yeah.
A god of ocean, Aquaman, of speed,
The Flash,
and of strength, which I'm guessing might be Wonder Woman.
I mean, that's the
one that I really don't know about.
Yeah.
But if you look at the panel, this is in a Marvel comic. It has them going through the city, heading towards this darkest day event.
Yeah.
And so it's like showing the destruction of like DC's universe.
Yeah.
Because of this event, and now this darkest event is now in the Marvel universe trying to eat it up.
What if the darkest day? What if it's just a way of them saying this is the kind of end of DC Comics?
And see, that's what
kind of foreshadowing what they're about to do.
Because DC Comics haven't been doing well ever since they did New 52.
Yeah.
New 52 was like them restarting from scratch, and it didn't work out. That's why they had the Doomsday set of comics, because the Doomsday Clock story put everything back together and was like, okay, everything's okay now.
It's like, hey guys, remember that thing we did?
But see, here's the thing with that, like, but now they're coming out with this 5G set of stories that won't even have the regular people in it. Like, all the superheroes have been changed around.
I feel like that's going to be a huge mistake.
Yeah, and I feel like this is their last shot of like, okay, let's try to get this working again, because DC movies,
So
they do no continuity in this universe that they're trying to do.
no.
Their games are okay. The animated series that they do are okay.
Yeah.
But their comics and their movies, which is their like two big things, are not doing well.
No.
And Marvel is doing the complete opposite. They're doing well.
Yeah. Comics are... The only thing that they're not doing well is TV shows right now, for being honestly. Because there are a few that are good, but for the majority of it, they're crap.
Yeah. And see, like, with DC, their TV shows are good, and recently DC tried to use the success of their TV to be kind of a connection point to tie their movies together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, great. But like,
Y'all should have started there from the beginning.
yeah,
honestly.
and like, I would have rather seen the people playing the TV superheroes on the movies, because that would make sense. Yeah, you can give them fancier suits and all, but like,
Okay, here's what I think they just need to do. Start over with this 5G comic line. And what they need to do is take the characters and actors, actresses, stuff like that from the TV shows. Build all of them up, kind of like they just did with the Crisis event. Build that up and keep building it up. Keep building up to where everybody's just like, man, I wonder where this is going to go. I'm so excited for it. And then they drop a trailer for a movie.
yeah.
And then that's how they start off their kind of DCEU.
Yeah, and like, when it comes to this comic book situation, obviously this 5G is going to be a separate thing to the original story, because back to the 2026 thing, obviously there's going to be stories leading up to 2026 to what they're talking about, and then 2030. So this 5G event is either they're going to try this for a decade, see if it works, and if not, then
Oh, well.
then let's sell off stuff, or there's gonna be this separate event from, like, there's 5G in its own little universe, call it the 5G universe, and then you have this universe still that's going to be dealing with this Darkest Day event.
Yeah.
Because there's two ways to look at this. It's either going to be a merger, and DC and Marvel will come together in a huge omniversal event that says DC and Marvel are in the same omniverse now. We're under the same umbrella, all that. Or it's basically gonna be, it's just gonna be a crossover event that is gonna be built up for 10 years and is finally going to like climax in 2030.
Well, here's the thing. That's not what you just said. Isn't too weird. It makes sense, because think of what Marvel did with their movies.
Yeah.
Started off with Iron Man, and they kept on, and they kept on. And Endgame was basically that event that DC's trying to pull off now with the comics.
Yeah, and it took them 10 years to build to that.
Yeah. So it's not too far. It's not too hard to imagine that that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's just weird that they're doing it in the comics, because the last time we saw a merger or a crossover event
With the
90s, I believe.
90s, early 2000s.
And that was because, like, they were trying to save each other from going bankrupt, and comics wouldn't have been a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And so now I feel like DC's like, hey, we're gonna need y'all to help us survive because we're about over with. And then just imagine a world without DC, like without Batman, without Superman.
Yeah, what I think is going to happen is, this is just me thinking, what they're going to do is, I can't think of his name. You know, the guy that's over movies for Marvel.
Oh yeah, I don't have him on top of my head.
Hold on, let me look it up his name because Kevin Foggy.
Yeah.
What I think is going to happen is, just my theory, Kevin Foggy, Marvel's going to let him kind of be like, help out DC. The way kind of like how he helped out Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to be a long-term thing. It's just going to show them how to handle it.
Because, like, I've also have seen to where there's a possible idea of DC not necessarily giving or selling everything to Marvel, or to, obviously we know, to Disney. Disney would own it.
Yeah.
But do kind of like Marvel did back in the day and sell off their characters.
Yeah. They can sell off their lesser characters that no one really knows and keep the really big ones like your Batman, your Superman, stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's what Marvel had to do to survive. And now that they're back on their feet, they're slowly
gaining back what they had. And also why I don't think Marvel, Disney will buy it is because I feel like Disney is too busy right now to buy DC. And what I mean by that is they're too busy trying to work with Sony.
Yeah.
Trying to keep Spider-Man and or buying Spider-Man from Sony. Which, not to get off track, if you haven't, I don't know if you heard this or not, Sony might be getting bought by Apple.
Oh, wow.
And if they do get bought by Apple, you know what will happen to Spider-Man?
What?
Due to the contract where they bought Spider-Man from Marvel back in the day, Marvel will go back to Disney.
Oh, not Superman, but Spider-Man will go back to
Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think there was a clause where if Sony get bought out, that Spider-Man will go back to Marvel.
And see, that would be interesting, definitely, with the whole Sony villain verse that they're trying to do.
Yeah. Because think about this. If you're Sony, what would you rather do? Sell your best character off? Because I want to say Disney had offered like $2 or $3 billion.
Yeah.
Would you rather have $2 or $3 billion then get bought out by Apple? Or would you rather get bought out by Apple for maybe a few million and lose out on gaining billions of dollars?
Yeah. And see, to me, Spider-Man should be with Marvel. And I'm glad they finally fixed that little whole incident they had back in 2019 over Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I feel like it would have been Sony's loss if they didn't work that out.
Yeah.
Because no one would have liked going to see a Spider-Man Sony movie.
Yeah. They Tom Holland actually called them drunk.
Yeah. Well, see, like, Tom Holland's like the best Spider-Man actor.
Yeah.
Out there. But so the 2020s are going to be interesting in comic book wise because of these tracks that DC and Marvel are on, that they're going to collide at one point, and out of that collision either will be one path of them being together, just together, or it was just a crossover.
Yeah.
And so, I'm gonna try to keep up with this whole storyline, and we'll definitely will have more parts and keep y'all informed about this. But to sort of end this, we would like to give a special shout out to London, Ontario, Canada, which some of our listeners are from. Thank y'all for listening. And thank the rest of y'all for listening. Like, comment, share, subscribe to this podcast. Share this podcast with your friends and family.
Also, to the people of London, Ontario, cheeseburger, bald eagle, gun, McDonald's, which is American for we love you.
Yeah. Remember, if you would like to support the Iceberg Lounge and just the Iceberg network of channels, which includes Iceberg Gaming, K-Town Gaming, and possible new content coming to y'all in the future, go to patreon.com/trji, and for $1 a month you will become a VIP.
Also, let us know if we're thinking about starting a Discord.
Yeah.
So let us know if you would be interested in joining that Discord.
Yeah, and that Discord could possibly be tied into Patreon or whatever. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Possible new podcasts might be coming down the pike in this Iceberg network that's being developed. We are in talks with a few people about developing their podcast, but yeah, y'all have a God blessed day, and always remember, all to God.